Good evening, everybody. My name is Temi, and you are watching Annotated. This is the place where Black and African stories get to live outside of the margins, literally and figuratively. And we are live at the Pulse, broadcasting live from the New Black Studios. So if you want to be a part of today's conversation, you can do so by giving us a call on 0203 8787870. You can drop your comments and I'll see them. And also you can join the Discord. The link for that should be in the description. Now, we have been talking about this year being the National Year of Reading. And so, as I've been explaining, this platform and this show is about getting everybody into reading again for fun and not just reading because, you know, they have to because it's school or because their parents are making them read or because they're trying to impress someone, you know. Let's read for fun. And every one of our guests, including the one that we have today, he doesn't know it yet, but every guest has donated a book to the New Black Library that we are building in order to help towards this National Year of Reading. So our guests will be donating a book of his choice, a book or two of his choice, to our library. So we'll get into that later. I want to introduce you to the guest that we have today. I would say he is a friend at this point, but I feel like I kind of like met him once and I just didn't give him back. And so I'm glad and honored to be able to call him a friend, and we'll see later if he accepts that. So, also, I wanted to also share that we've experienced a lot of firsts. He was the first person who ever flew all the way from the abroad to come and sit with us at the Blacklisted Book Club. He was the first to take my ass all the way on the train to Brighton. We had a nice little day trip to Brighton, to Afori Bookshops, which I'll mention a bit later. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. I can see you all coming in. And he was also the first to share a meal with me at Accra. And we enjoyed a good meal over there and we had some good times. So let me introduce you to the man who I call friend. So I wrote down my introduction because I didn't want to, I wanted to do it justice, right? So bear with me. Okay. So I'm going to introduce you to Phillip B. Williams, Chicago born and bred. And if you know anything about Chicago, you know it produces a certain kind of person. Bold, layered, unforgettable. Phillip is all of these things. He is an award-winning poet and novelist, author of the poetry collection Thief in the Interior and Mutiny, winner of the American Book Award and Lambda Literary Award, the Withering Award, and more. And in 2024, he released his debut novel, Hours, and the literary world has not been the same since. I explained last week and the week before that Hours changed something in me. It's one of those books that once you finish, you realize that you're not quite the same as the person you were when you started reading. It's the kind of book that keeps on giving. You could read it 10 times and find something new every single time. It's a masterwork. And tonight, we get to journey into it. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Phillip B. Williams. Woo! I need some claps in the comments, please, and some emojis and all of that kind of stuff. I can already see people are saying that they love Hours. This is what Hours looks like. Look at this I don't know how to do left and right, but yeah, this is good. Look at this. Look at this beautiful cover. I'm not seeing claps in the comments, guys. I need to see claps and like clicks and stuff because he's also a poet. But this is ours. How are you, Phillip?
I am where are you seeing people in the
Oh, you
chat?
can't. Don't worry, I can see them. They're there. Ooh, I can see all their claps. Can you not see in the center?
No, I don't see anything.
I see. Don't.
Maybe
Oh, you can just see me. Sorry. I'll tell you what they're saying. They're saying we love ours. Clap, 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 clap. Ha 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 ha. Clap, 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 clap. Fire, fire, fire. Clap, 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 clap. That's what they're. That's what they're saying. So don't worry. I'll let you. Know what they're saying as we go on. But how's your day been today?
it's been good. This is nap time for me.
Really?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, I should let everybody
Yeah.
know that you're in America, not Chi Town. No, whatever. You told me to stop
No,
saying
I'm
that
in
before.
Houston.
He's in Houston right now. So nap
Yeah,
time
yeah.
must be nice.
So it's the afternoon. I get my afternoon nap in, you know, uh, mostly because I stay up all night.
Oh, reading, musing. I was gonna say that must be the life of an artiste.
Yeah, yeah. And I also I teach Mondays and Fridays, and so I have the middle of the week to do a lot of writing, thinking, um, drafting, stuff like that. So yeah, this is around the time where I start to wind down. I've had lunch, um, check my emails, look at a storyboard that I've started, things like that.
Of a new story.
Maybe.
Okay, wait, hold on. We need to get into this because I know you're about to release a new poetry collection, right?
Right.
Okay, so all right, we'll get into that. Let's talk about ours that first. Um,
Okay.
because it is one of my favorite books. Everybody who asks me, they get told that ours is my favorite book, and I feel like it is a big book, but I feel like if you don't read it or if you haven't read it, I give you a bit of side eye. um yeah, I feel like are you even classy if you haven't read ours yet? But anyways, um I always describe ours as um a story about a lady who goes around freeing formerly enslaved black people and destroying all of those that kept them enslaved.
Mhm.
And she creates this kind of like wonderful place at the beginning, at least, for them to stay and for them to kind of live a free life. But as the
Mhm.
story goes, there's a lot of things that unravel that cause us to question, what is freedom? What does freedom look like? And our question today, are we ever truly free? I would like for all of you to get involved in that conversation. So, like I mentioned earlier, you can give us a call, you can leave a comment, and you can join us on Discord if you want to engage and let us know your thoughts. So, having said all of that, did I give a good synopsis? Is there anything you would like to
Yeah,
add?
fine. I mean, there's also the way that she frees these people is with conjure. So she's constantly, practicing and trying to perfect and often getting wrong her, what many would call magic,
Yeah,
which empowers her and helps her to protect the people in the town of ours.
excellent. And so I thought it would be nice for the people to hear um, a little bit from this story. I would like you to
Mhm.
sort of introduce the part that we're going to be sharing. And then, ladies and gentlemen, you are going to have the pleasure of having a live annotation. Oh, I left out the best part. Miss B says I left out the best part. What's the best part? Let us know what the best part is. Spoiler free, though. And we're going to have a live annotation. So we're going to go through, and I want you guys to understand that we actually have an award-winning lecturer going through this annotation. So I hope you've got your pens and your papers ready to learn and discuss. Um, Miss B, let me know what the best part is, and then we'll go. But whilst Miss B is typing, do you want to go ahead and read the excerpt? And also,
Do that. Yeah.
she's Alice's White's people. She, oh, okay, yes. She unalives. Do you mean? Oh, the best part is that she unalives the people that kept the black
Oh,
people
yeah. She
enslaved. That's the
annihilates those
yeah.
plantations. Yeah. Yeah.
We're going
Yeah.
to get into that. We're going to discuss that. But let us know what's happening in this part of the book that you're about to read, and then we'll get into it.
Yeah. And so she's already brought the first group up to what was once called Graysville, which is now called ours, and the possession of those um, who were recently freed. And right now, she understands that there needs to be a kind of cleansing, a kind of baptism to get the trauma and the filth of racism and enslavement off of them. And so she's uh, told them to gather at Creek's Bridge, which is a bridge that plays a pivotal part later on in the novel, but for now, it is the creek part, the water that she's going to use to wash the her residence anew. And so I'm going to start there and get through the ceremony, and then after I finish reading that, we'll get into some annotations.
So excited.
I never have annotated my work, not really, so we'll see how that goes.
Love that. We're going to critique. Let's go for it. Go on.
Saint told everyone to come to Creek's Bridge at sunset and to bring whatever meal they can to share. Everything you can spare and even what you can't, she said. The musicians were to bring their instruments. She told everyone to dress in something to dance in. As soon as she finished speaking, wild strawberry pies went into the oven and someone started roasting a pig, boiling turnip and collard greens, enough to feed the entire town. The children searched for clothes to wear and waved garments over their laughter like flags. When time came to head over to Creek's Bridge, they went straight to the water. Lanterns hanging on pikes arranged in a circle, a large bonfire in the center, made it bright enough that they saw everything in front of and all around them. Food furnished a few tables farther from the creek, and the fiddlers began to play. Saint had changed into a small white dress and a large yellow ribbon wrapped around and knotted at the back. She wore no shoes and encouraged everyone to take off their own. She went to the bonfire and started clapping. Soon, everyone clapped with her in unison. Clap, clap, clap. And she began to dance, to twirl, and laugh. Children joined her first, then the women, hopping up and down and spinning about. The summer night had not cooled much since daytime, but they moved in the heat, the fire yanking sweat from their bodies, their naked feet sliding in the grass, their arms spinning above their heads. They touched their faces, put their fingers in their mouths, tugged on their ears, and stomped the ground, their bodies moving and creating a new rhythm that the men had to change their claps to fit. The claps now being determined by the dancers moving, while the men got to stomping and shouting joyfully, syncopating their arms to the women and children, and if the men got off beat, they fixed that by paying close attention to the feet blurring and kicking and stomping near the fire, so they laid down their instruments and played a song with their bodies, and their heads got to nodding and hips to rocking, to gyrating, to claps pulsating around them, changing, 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 and their mouths open and the funk of the body let loose the sweat, the stink all in the hair until somebody hollered something beyond a word, and they kept on hollering it, the sound leading into another sound, into a new sound, loud from the body, like a spirit trying to answer the bodies, or the bodies trying to answer the spirit, that it wouldn't be contained, as their legs kicked and their heads rolled until their movements spoke in tongues, and the throat got to letting out a moan here and a groan there, and the sound of pain left their flesh, while their muscular bodies and their thin bodies and their fat bodies and their sickly bodies glistened in the fire, and every child screamed as they jumped and spun, and every man clapped clapped and moaned and testified with their feet to what sounded like it hurt so bad, must have hurt them so bad, coming up out the body, out the burning wail of the throat, out the wet of their spit, wailing, lifting up from the bodies now, contortion flexed and contracting on the ground, eyes fluttering in their heads, the body creating a new way of being, a new way of thinking, creating a new knowledge that belonged to them. Then Saint stopped moving and stood up. Her body shook and shied. Her companion brought her a rooster and a knife. She struggled to keep herself still and raised her arms in the air, the rooster in one hand and the knife in the other, and screamed as she separated the rooster's head from its body in one clean swipe. At that moment, Saint felt the gate, the breach between the living realm and the spiritual realm, swing open over the creek. Everyone stopped moving, their bodies heaved in the flame bent light, and the grooves they made in the earth with their feet. Without much thought, they all went to the creek and let the waters flow, rinse first their feet, then their knees as they knelt, then their faces, their entire bodies cleansed in the running the water taking with it all that wasn't theirs to carry, their bruises, their traumas, their hardened melancholy. They returned to the fire to dry off and admire each other's faces in the warm light. Out of breath, they sat and reclined, naked, and none rushed to hide themselves while the ground, the earth that had once haunted them, felt softer beneath them. And so I'll stop there
Yes,
and
I
listen.
love that. I picked that particular scene, Philip, because I feel like throughout the whole book, it feels like you were right there. But that scene in particular, I just imagined myself being there. I feel like the way when you read it, the way it sounds is the
Mhm.
way I like. Is like the sound gives it its visual. So I thought that this would be an excellent piece for our first ever live annotation. I'm going to call this section like maybe annotation moment. We'll see. It's a work in progress. But so I wanted us to go through that. And everybody that's listening at home, if you feel like explaining and sharing what you feel as we read that and as you see the text on the screen, feel free to leave your comments and I will interject and share them with Philip. But this is another first for us, Philip, annotating your own work. Okay, so let's if you were annotating this as a class, as to your students, what would be one of the first things that stand out?
Oh, well, I would never do that with my students with my own work.
Really?
That's the one.
Is that like
Um,
egotistical?
it's frowned upon
Really?
um, to do your own work. Yeah, yeah. Unless there's absolutely no other example that you can give. We typically avoid doing that.
Oh, I understand. But let's
Um,
pretend that you didn't write this and we're using this piece of literature as um, the the topic for the class, the lesson for the class.
yeah. Well, I think the first thing that I want to do is let's do underline instead. Um, let's look here, um, particularly at, and then we can do a highlight. I think the first thing that I noticed when reading it, and this is from editing, is how we have alliteration here.
Mm-hmm.
Alliteration is the repetition of a consonant sound at the beginning of a word. And what it adds to language is a kind of musicality, a kind of percussion. It can make it seem like things are moving more quickly. So food furnished a few tables farther from the creek, and the fiddlers began to play. Um, as an introduction to the music that's about to happen. Like this is a sentence that brings us into the celebration. It signals that there's going to be a kind of song to what follows in the next paragraph, which is a very long paragraph that eventually drops all punctuation and becomes one long kind of run on sentence that doesn't end until uh, Saint begins to chop off the rooster's head. And
Mm.
so, just as a kind of sonic foreshadow, we get food furnished a few tables farther from the creek, and the fiddlers began to play. And so, there are kind of these musical moments that happen throughout the novel, and this is one of the earliest ones. And just as a signal to, okay, so what can the reader expect as they proceed to read? So there's that. Um, Here we have Saint told everyone to come to Creek's Bridge at sunset and to bring whatever meal they can share. Everything you can spare and what you can, she said. The musicians were to bring their instruments. She told everyone to dress in something to dance in. As soon as she finished speaking, wild strawberry pies went into the oven, and someone started roasting a pig, boiling turnip greens. And so getting into the communal feel and understanding that, this is one of the first times, and sometimes for some of them it's the first time ever, and some it's the first time in a long time, where they were able to use their agency to make what they want and to use what they make for themselves. So they're not making a meal for some stranger or for some so-called master. This is their own ceremony, their own kind of rites of passage. And so she's guiding them and saying, whatever you can spare, which is interesting too for someone who was previously enslaved, to be believed that they have something that they can offer to another. And so it's the beginning of a sense of agency that we see that the citizens of ours have through the vehicle that is Saint, imagining and really saying like, yeah, you have some stuff that you can give. You also have things that you can spare, but let's offer that too. Um, Understanding that if everyone gives what they have, then everyone will end up having something. No one will go without.
Yeah.
So the strawberry pies, the boiling turnip and collard greens, enough to feed the entire town. And then my favorite part of the paragraph is the children searched for clothes to wear and waved garments over their laughter like flags. There are so many documents that would this explain the extreme squalor that the enslaved live in, as far as having rags to wear, vegetable potato sacks, sometimes naked. They didn't have anything, and so to now have these clothes to wear, and then they're celebrating them, waving these clothes over their heads like banners, like flags, like ribbons. That was my favorite part of that paragraph. And so all of these things are setting up what ours is meant to be for these people, which is a fresh start as those who have been newly freed. We keep going. Here we get, make sure we're still here. We get the onomatopoeia of
Mm-hmm.
clap, clap, clap. Again, pointing to the musicality of language. Food furnished a few tables, and now we get the sound clap, 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 and that is again letting us know that we're going to start to have an embodied experience. And so there's first the language with the F's moving through the mouth, and now there's the idea of the claps, which involve the body, two hands clapping, and also ears to listen. And so for those who can't hear, they can see the words clap, and so they can still participate in that. And for those who have an audiobook, they will hear clap, clap, clap. And so there's a way to, in unison, right, bring everyone together as part of this dance. I'm gonna skip ahead to where we get yeah, like they touch their faces, put their fingers in their mouths. And the reason why there is such a limited punctuation here is because I wanted the reader to become part of the ceremony. And I wanted them to get lost in the language, to get lost in kind of the spellbinding sounds of this ritual that is freeing them and showing them how to use their bodies again outside of just labor. And so from they touched their faces all the way down to about, I think, here is the last time we'll see punctuation used with the commas. And then after that is syncopating their palms to the women and children. And if the men got off beat, they fixed that by paying close attention to the feet blurring and kicking and stomping. And so the language and the lack of punctuation starts to mimic what is being said and what they're doing with their bodies. And so the idea of getting off beat, which is what it feels like when there's no grammatical markers telling you how to read something, that's what's happening by removing those commas, those periods, those moments of pause. There's a way where you have to catch the beat of the language and just really pay close attention to not just what is being said, but how it's being said. So that's the first thing to think about. The second thing to consider is this word blurring. Um, and how there's so many different things happening. There's the dancing, there's the prayer, there's a kind of losing one's sense in the spirit, and all of this is merging into one total experience. And so the word blurring here is really important. And from here out, we get no punctuation; it just goes and goes. Um, what helps to kind of set a rhythm to this, I believe, is uh, nodding, rocking, gyrating, claps pulsing, uh, changing the gerunds, the ing words, how they are simultaneously verbs but also nouns. They're a way of describing what is going on, but then also a way of acting out what is going on. So we know what nodding is, but then we can see nodding as an action.
Yeah.
We know what rocking is, and we can see the rocking. And I think too, some people might even rock while they're reading it. I know I do. Typically, when I'm reading it, I'll start to move with the sentences, and so allowing for the words themselves to create that sonic power, that pattern of language, and a kind of fluidity and rhythm. And that way, the reader doesn't necessarily get so lost in the words because there's a way that they're getting instructed on how to kind of measure everything out, and they measure everything out in the way that those who are dancing in the book are measuring out their lives. Here, thinking about the funk of the body, I was thinking about funk music and the dancing and the sweating and the kind of vulnerability that we have when we just get down,
Yeah.
you get lost in the kind of musicality of it. So I'm using the word funk there was to signal that. Before I go on, is there anything that you wanted to chime in with?
Yes, I wanted to say, I think that because today I was trying to get um, this from my book onto my iPad. So I scanned it and then I put it onto my iPad. And then I was like, oh my gosh, it took away all the punctuation. But then it's like it's a deliberate thing. So that's amazing. And then also, I think also that, like I put in my notes, that the fact that they were meeting at water and the fact that they were meeting at a bridge, and that bridge is like a bridging of their past to their present, future, as well as
Mm-hmm.
their future. And I just think that like no one understands, and I feel like a bit like I've done this episode, and this episode was more for me because when I tell you that this is my favorite book, and when you're explaining it the way you're explaining it now, it's like, did you do this all on purpose? Oh, well, you're a poet, so I know that you did. But was it like when you're writing, are you writing it and then just only through the editing, you're like, oh, I can put some onomatopoeia here. I can do some alliteration. Is that how it goes? Or actually, as you're writing, it's just flowing, and you're like, this is it.
It's a mixture of several things. One is knowing that so much of what I've learned has become intuition.
Yeah.
And so as I'm writing everything that I've ever learned about writing in any genre, be it poetry, fiction, nonfiction, is going to come out in the project and the experiment. So there's that. There's going to be sound devices. There are going to be some things that flow like poems because it's what I'm trained in as a writer. Predominantly is in poetry. And then it's in the revision and going back and seeing what it is that I've done, where I can chisel out more with more precision and with more intention some of the things that are happening based off of my intuition. And so you start with a strong foundation and everything that you've learned, and then through that foundation you build on um, that intentionality and say, okay, I see where my habits were kicking in, so how can I make it so that they work for my benefit?
I grew up attending a church, a type of church that we know as like white garment church, where we wear white and we don't wear our shoes when we're in the church and when we're praying and stuff like that. And that type of church is really known for like going into the spirit, and when they have like their praise and worship and they're all singing and dancing, it reminded me of, or this scene reminds me of that. And our topic today is like, are we truly free? And I'm just thinking about it, that this scene, and anybody who's read the
Mhm.
book in the comments, let me know. Like, I'm just thinking that actually during that moment, right at the beginning of the book, may be one of the few times within the book that we see these black people truly free, or at least showing a sense of freedom. They're all dancing. They're not caring about who's looking at them, who's watching them. I just imagine a scene where everybody's just dancing, moving, and just like showcasing a type of freedom. Um, and I think it was interesting that you underlined the word. Was it blurry? Was that the word?
Yes.
Blurry. And I feel like it is a sense of like everything's just merging into one. Like there's no real distinction between like the adults and the children, or the women and the men. They're just all there. I feel like even at one point they're all just like naked, or I don't know if I imagined that, but I feel like they're all just like free and not really feeling, not really caring about what it is that they look like, or what they've been
Right.
or what they've come from. They're just at this moment they're free. So do you feel, would you agree, firstly, that this is one of the only true examples of freedom within the book?
It's an example for sure. Even though they're being guided to do this, um, it is one of the ways that they're allowed to be fully 100% themselves without judgment. They can be naked, they can dance, they can shout, they can make whatever kinds of sounds they need to make. They can moan, they can spin and dance and not be punished for it, not be considered degenerates for it or barbaric for it. Like they're fully in their human capacity and in the human language of first and foremost the body, you know, expressing themselves. And I mentioned labor earlier outside of just the language of enslavement, which is what does someone else tell you to do that you had to do, as opposed to someone guiding them to say, this is and really, it's not even saying guiding them. She's initiated this,
Yeah.
but the music is what's guiding them. The music is what's, telling them, what the next move is or what they're allowed to do. And they're just following the music, and really that means they're following their bodies. So yeah, this is a primary example of freedom in this book because it's allowing for both the individual and the collective to have an absence of oppression as they live out their lives.
I love that. And Miss B has said, and in regards to what I was saying about church, is that they use bodies of water in the white garment church. So they use a lot of water is symbolic a lot in church in general. But for instance, when we were baptized, we got taken to like the ocean and was baptized there. And
Mhm.
it really wasn't the ocean, but it was like maybe a river or something. We got taken to the river and we were baptized. There's a lot of symbolic meaning to water. And even within that paragraph, there is, and within the book in general, there's a lot of imagery that you've used surrounding water. So where does that come from?
Oh yeah, definitely thinking about the water as a vessel for cleaning, cleansing, spiritual cleansing. There is the idea of the travels between the motherland, Africa, in this particular section. I'm thinking um, West Africa and some of Central, like Congo,
Mm,
to crossing over the Atlantic to the Americas, to the U.S., to the United States in particular. Um, what that body of water represents is the idea of a kind of purgatory,
yes.
this in between of worlds, a waiting space. The scholar Horton Spillers called it the vestibule. Um, and so, what happened over the water between Africa and North America, what is that space and what does the water represent there? And how can that be transformed into what water has always meant, which is a life-giving force, a force where um, spirit resides, a place where, baptism happens, um, where one can find sustenance, be it the water itself or fish, where one can find peace or even a way to hide. Thinking of those who, escaped from slavery, having their scent washed away so that the dogs couldn't follow them
Yes.
because they moved through the water. So the water as a protective force, even though the vessels over it turned it into this this kind of road to death. Um, there's always a way that our connection to water, um, that kind of black sense, right? It's beyond what the journey over the Atlantic uh, did to us. It interrupted the story, but it didn't stop the story. It didn't stop us from making stories, and it also didn't ruin that very spiritual, magical element for us.
Yes. I read a book. I can't remember the name now. I think it's by Dr. Anita something or something Anita. I will share it later. And she talks about how essentially talking about how the body keeps a score, essentially,
Mhm.
and that a lot of black people have a natural kind of fear of the water. And I think she was talking primarily about African Americans that have a fear about the water, but that's because their ancestors have literally. There's been times where their ancestors have been thrown into the water during the transatlantic slave trade movement, and so that stays in the body as like an inheritance. So when we think about when you've spoken about water and it being spiritual and it being freeing to an extent, what would you say about that? Like, how can you distinguish between the freedom of water and actually the
Mhm.
fear of water?
Yeah, I think less to a kind of epigenetic memory, which is, what is the trauma passed through,
Mm,
biology. I think it's more so a lack of resources. They being, racist white Americans would rather cement a public pool than allow for integration of that pool. And so just not having access to water, particularly when you live in a waterlogged area where there's no lake, river, ocean, sea to swim in, that is one of the major issues as far as there being a fear of water is that we just don't always have access to it. The public water space is not historically has not been something allowed to us. Being kicked out of swimming pools and not allowed to swim with white folks in their own parks, their own public swimming pools. They would rather literally pour cement into the pool and have no one ride in it. So there's a kind of way that the injustice that people um, have lived through, like Black folks have lived through, as part of that fear of water. Because I've never really have heard of too many folks from the Caribbean who are like, "Oh yeah, I'm afraid of water," because the water is all around,
yeah.
and we still share a kind of um, historical trauma related to water, but that's not like a separate issue as in, as one versus the letter A. Like it's not a number versus a letter. They're all connected. But there is a way that a lack of accessibility throughout our time in the United States to water, um, I think plays maybe a bigger part than the epigenetic memory of that water, because there's also a way that the memory that precedes that is of having fun at the beach or having
Yeah.
fun at the lake, of fishing, of, having access to the water as a spiritual vessel, as a spiritual kind of journey. So I don't want to give too much to, and because there is the trauma of the Middle Passage, but I don't want to give too much to that in lieu of what is the tangible history of the disallowance of those kinds of pleasures which is just simply having a place to swim in the inner city. Maybe, I mean, just period, even, in some of the countrysides that might be kind of like waterlogged. Yeah.
And I love that even in this scene that we've read and
Mhm.
that we've annotated is that Saint has access to this creek and it's
Yeah.
ours and they can all use it. And like I think that that's amazing. But I wanted to ask because I know that you live in Houston at the moment, America.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I wanted to ask, in terms of like the history, transatlantic slave history that that we're all that we know of and that is explored within this book. Do you think that Black people are truly free or can ever truly be free?
I think the answer is yes, we can be. Are we currently? I don't know if anyone is free. Um, but speaking particularly to a kind of Black experience, I we can make certain decisions, sure. Like us being able to do this is
Yes.
definitely not something that my ancestors, could have done.
Yes.
Um, Now I'm talking about the freedom to just have this kind of conversation, to make art and to discuss that art for a long time. It had to be done in secret, if at all. Um, Thinking of who was allowed to write, who was allowed to read, who was allowed to teach that, learn that, etc. So understanding that, what are the ways that um, these systems in place, these political systems of oppression, these social systems of oppression, can use what we consider to be free or freedoms against us. Is that a kind of freedom when we have someone who is making Black music and the people who make the most money off that music are not Black people?
Mm. Oh, it's
Oh,
like you've read our we've the UK had a report about this about music and who's actually
really?
profiting from Black music and it isn't the Black people. So keep going.
Yeah, it's not us. And so I don't it doesn't have to be either or, like, no, we're not free, or yes, we are free. I think either side of that can be a bit unproductive. I think there's a way that, yes, we are free, and then we can navigate that freedom, or be forced to navigate that freedom in ways that uh, make make it transactional, which then makes it an unfreedom. Because in those transactions, the people who get the money are then empowered to further, affect the policies, right? Because they can have their PACs, their they can fund different political strategists to manipulate the way people vote, or to get into a senator's head to say, oh, if you vote this way, then we'll donate $100,000 and this, that, and the third. And so we have to always be aware of our participation in our lack of freedom, or what takes away our freedom, while knowing that there's also a trap in that. Like, we want to express ourselves, we have the right to do that. And a lot of times to do that has offered us a lot of substantial freedom, substantial possibilities to get out of circumstances of um, uh, racial oppression, social oppression, but they go hand in hand, I think, for Black Americans, where everything we do that expresses our joy, our pleasure, or just our sense of being alive is made into a commodity that works against us. And in that commodification, we then see how every time we dance, it becomes a TikTok trend, and we're not the ones who are making money off of that.
Mm.
We have all of these talented people who influence the world with our trends, and yet our neighborhoods don't have clean water. There's no investment in the clearing off of the parks, the abandoned parks, because someone who's not in that community has bought that park, and they are saving it so that when the property values are dropping everywhere else, they can buy up the whole neighborhood. So, it seems to all come down to money, but it's not just that. But that is the way that, just one of the ways where our freedom has been uh, cut off short,
Mm.
is so much of what brings us pleasure, or what brings us freedom, is turned against us in that way. Um, and that is by no means saying don't do those things, but we have to have a critical awareness about that so that maybe there's a possibility, and I think there is, to still be communal, to still be celebratory, and to still understand our culture in a way that is so inclusive and so well gate kept, that we can possibly protect ourselves from all of the different, puppeteering of what it is that we do all over the diaspora that really is for us, but have been taken and turned into these little fads and trends and watered down versions of what we do.
Yeah, find it interesting that when we're discussing what freedom is, there's that connection that you've made in terms of like finances,
Mhm.
and like equating that to power, I guess. So let me ask you, what for you personally today? What has freedom felt like for you today?
Pretty much felt like not having to worry about any of those things and having discussions with people who, don't necessarily have all of the political or financial power, but they have spiritual power, they have artistic power, you know, um, they're really invested in being a neighbor and,
Yeah.
and being a human who sees the humanity in other folks. And I even use the word, human with a grain of salt. I'm more interested in um, if we're to use that word, to not use it in a hierarchy in nature, as in, there's the human and then there's the animal, and like we're all trying to, hopefully live a peaceful and uh, cohabitational life with all life around us. So the death of capitalism would be fantastic. It doesn't have to look like, what people are like, oh, well, that means you're a communist or socialist. That
Mm,
for me, what it means that any man-ran system has the potential to fail, um, because it has a way of being infiltrated by greed, by wrath, by self-centeredness, narcissism, all of these traits that are very human, but they poison the well for all of us. And so money is just one part of it. There's also a lack of spiritual freedom. How there's this expectation that everybody who's Black American is Baptist. It's like that's just not
yeah.
that's just not the case, or can or should be this, or that is the only way. Meanwhile, I found a lot more spiritual freedom and reading up on um, more diasporic traditions like um, Santeria, Candomblé, thinking about Cuba and Brazil. Even seeing how those two show up in the United States through voodoo, how some of that comes up in Congo traditions and hoodoo, um, finding just a Black spirit or Black spirituality on our own. And so it gets rambly because everything is connected. All of these different things are connected. But for me, it looks like having conversations with folks who understand that we need every idea and every technology that we have, spiritual technology, artistic technology, our bodies as a kind of technology and knowledge, in order to have a sense of self that feeds into a community, that feeds into there being a lasting life on this planet.
Thank you. I feel I've seen some comments. You weren't here a couple of weeks ago. I shared some of my writing. And so some people are like, "Oh, we want to hear what Tamar's been up to." I don't know. We'll see. I'm shy in front of award-winning authors. Okay, behave
Oh,
yourself,
please.
guys. Don't show me up. So I wanted to say that with Saint, because we've been having a lot of discussions recently here in the UK, especially on this platform that's hosting us, the New Black, and that is that, what does leadership look like amongst our generation? Um,
Mhm.
what things can we be doing that will provide a different outcome? And in the book, Saint is somebody who took it upon herself, or maybe was fated to take it upon herself, or destined to take it upon herself, to free these people. Um, Maybe made a lot of sacrifices in order to do so. She may not have done it perfectly, and she may have had her faults, But do you
Mhm.
feel that it's possible for a person to take leadership in the way that Saint did and for it to have all positive outcomes?
Yes, no. Yes, there is the possibility for someone to take leadership like Saint did. Um, I think in a micro sense, in a macro sense, no. I think in pockets of communities, each community needs their own, they have their own individual needs.
Mm,
Um, and so for me, it doesn't make sense for there to be one black voice speaking for all black people.
okay.
When we did have a semblance of that with Malcolm X, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., they were both assassinated. And then people were scattering, trying to figure out who the next leader was, as opposed to now what we have are different, many different voices collaborating, sometimes competing. And a lot of that has to do, again, with capitalism to offer input onto, what could we at least consider as possible. But I think it's for me it's probably more useful to have people who are from a particular community be the leaders of that community, and not even individual leaders, but maybe as a group, a kind of community ran community. To be honest with you, and things are going to fail. You're going to fail. You're going to fall into the the kind of traps that all leaders fall into, which is the potential for arrogance, the potential for betrayal, being betrayed, the possibility of, starting off well, but then just low energy,
Mm,
death in the family, anything can stop, which is why it's important to not have everything be on one person's shoulders. It should be a communal effort. And then once, you have these communities that have found a way to really dig their feet into the foundation, so to speak, to put roots down and say, this is what we've done and this is how it's successful. Then there can be collaboration with the communities. But I think starting smaller is the way that we've been, you know, trying to do it now. But we have grifters, girl. Like everybody knows what everybody needs to do, and everybody wants to be the voice. And then you find out that they're getting donations from God knows who or whatever. Um, so it's hard. It's hard having a kind of rallying force, but I think it's possible for sure.
Christ is Life has said, I feel like Saint is a character with great juxtaposition as she shows qualities of a leader, but she also does it for
Mhm.
her own reasons.
Mhm.
So I feel
Mhm.
like with Saint, she did have excellent leadership skills, I think, at the beginning. And then due to like maybe her memories fading and stuff like that,
Mhm.
things
Mhm.
went slowly a bit downhill. I want to
Yeah.
let you know that Abba is now my favorite character in. Is he your favorite character?
One of them, yeah. Abba and the twins, I go back and forth with.
I was like reading back and I was like, I was finding these gems, even from early in the beginning, that I was like, oh, I didn't even know Abba had like a voice like this. Like he
Mhm.
stood on business from the beginning, I think.
From
And
the
so
beginning.
from the beginning, he was like, girl, get it together. Like he, I think, is one of the only people, maybe Francis, that stands up to Saint and doesn't cower in her presence.
Yeah. In some ways, Justice is like that too.
Mm.
He has a scene where he confronts Saint and she's so outraged at how he speaks to
Yeah,
her
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that she has to kick him out of her house. Um, but yeah, he gets so fed up with the way that she sees him and treats him. So yeah, there are a few who, they're like, no, you tripping. But then, a lot of folks are just like, that's saying she's gonna do what she's gonna do.
I think that this book is fantastic. It's really hard to it is a thick book. And so it's hard to kind of like go through everything. I don't want to give any spoilers. I want for people to read it themselves. I love
It's so much
this.
to spoil, it's hard.
There's so much to spoil, but I feel like it's like you have to experience it yourself. Like you can't, I don't want to taint it. I want people to pick it up, and I dare anybody to tell me it's not a good book. Like just read it and then experience all what is good. And I want, there are so many themes, and we won't have a chance to talk and discuss all the themes today. The main theme, or one of the main themes in the book, is about freedom and what that looks like. And I feel like once you read it, you will begin to ask yourself these questions. What does freedom look like? How have I exercised my own freedom? What does leadership look like? And sometimes if I'm doing something and I think I'm helping, I could actually be making things worse. And actually, sometimes if no one asks you for help, maybe just mind your own business as well sometimes. So there is a lot... there is a lot to go through. I know that there are some people in the comments that have read the book and they have been saying how much they love it. Guys, if you have, I feel like this was just you guys on a FaceTime between me and my friend. But if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments, or we'll see them. If you want to call up, you can do so on 0203 8787870. I'm going to say that again. 0203 8787870. I always feel like I said say it
I have
again.
a question.
Oh, please
I
go
have a
ahead.
question.
Better not be a hard one.
It's not a hard. No, I want your opinion on this and how I should handle it
Ooh,
when, when folks are like, it's a big book, it's a long book, and and part of me feels as though it's an expectation that reading should be quick. Um, but I also feel like it's people who are underestimating their potential.
yes.
They don't know how smart they are. They don't know how powerful their minds are. They don't know how much time they actually have because there's no race. There's no there's no reason to read 100 books a year if you're rushing through them all. It's like, to have one book that might take a little bit longer or a lot longer
Yeah.
doesn't actually take away from anything. And I too and another part of this too is that the fantasy readers seem to be able to read books that just don't ever end.
Do you know what I think it
Um,
is? I
so yeah, what
think
is that?
first of all, yes, it's a thick book. It's a thickums like me. But I think that it's a fast-paced book, first of all. And I feel like I've heard you say before that, you've I'm gonna paraphrase. I might even be butchering this, but I feel like I've heard you say somewhere before that people can take their time. They don't have to read it all in one day.
Right.
It took you how many years to write this book? 16 years. And
Yeah.
you don't want them to read it in 16 hours. Do you know what I mean? Like you can consume it in the same way that you would drink your favorite wine, like slowly, sips. This is not something that it's not a shot, right? It is a fine wine. And so I think that people should be taking their time when reading it. It's educational and it's entertainment. It's a history lesson. It's so many things. And quite frankly, once you read it, because I read it first quite fast because you were coming and I wanted to be prepared to have conversation with you. I've been reading it again in preparation for this conversation, and I realized, like, I missed so many things. Like, there's so many nuances. There's so many characters. And I think you can look at it. This is maybe an answer to your question. I feel like you can look at this as a series of short stories in sense of each coupling. So Joy and Abba, the twins, Francis and Saint. I feel like you can look at each of them, Miss Wife and Miss Love. You can look at them as like short stories, and that way you don't have to like it's not an overpowering book. It is a consuming book. Like you fall in love with these characters. And somebody said people should savor the reading process, and I agree. I've made up my mind that I'm not just going to be fast reading because I need to get through a lot of books. I would rather read one good book and be thinking about that book for weeks and months later than to read 10 crappy books that I wish I didn't waste my time on. So it is fantastic. I would recommend reading it. Now, we didn't talk about your new poetry collection. Please tell us about that. And when it's coming out, when we can expect it. What's that face?
Well, because I don't have a UK date.
Yet.
I don't know if it's coming out in the UK.
It will. Like, we're going to make it happen. It should. I don't see why it shouldn't. But even if it comes out in America, when is it coming out?
July 14th. It's called Lift Every Voice.
Lift Every Voice. And what is the vibe of this? I think I read somewhere that it's kind of like homage to your father, I think. Did I read that? Or did I make that up?
That's part of it. I'm gonna bring up something that I can
Are you going to give us an
share.
exclusive?
No, not an exclusive.
No. Wait,
There are no exclusives.
can you not give us an exclusive?
There are no exclusives. It's like I've read from it. There are poems that are out, so
Oh, okay. Can you?
technically there would be
Okay, cool.
exclusives.
All right, go on. The people want to know what's happening with Tamar. So let us know. Let's share. Do share. I thought you were going to share.
Well, yeah. I'm thinking about my father in addiction,
Yes.
who I lost to overdose. Um, and what are the different ways that we can grieve, that we can mourn? How do we remember our dead? How do we honor them? Um, Moving through just different ways of understanding the how we can make ceremonies, for those that we miss, for those that we love. So yeah, that's what I was thinking through.
I love that. And that's coming out July
July
13th,
14th.
14th. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll be turning up. We'll have our UK celebration with you virtually, I guess. But I'm sure
Yeah.
it should come out in the UK too, and we shall
I
be
think so.
expecting
I
it.
think so. And this is the cover.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You always
The
have
artist is Shaki.
Shaki?
Shaki, yeah. Shikeith.
Shankeith?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Lift Every Voice. I love this. I love this this cover. I feel like you have an eye for picking really good artwork for the covers of your book. I feel like I'm going to get
This one I
this
picked,
and
yeah.
put it on my
Mhm.
wall, but I feel like this would be good to have on my wall too.
It's beautiful.
It
Yeah, it's
is.
really, really nice.
Okay.
Are you ready to tell us about Tamar?
Oh my gosh, embarrassing. Okay, so last time, let's see if we can get this up. Are people still here joining us? Let me know if you're here and if you wanna hear. Okay, so
I should get off of the screen. This is your
oh
turn.
no. Come back.
You said,
Come back. Oh, is it because you don't want me to see your facial expressions of like
no, it's not it.
this is so oh my gosh. Anyways, okay, cool. Last time, basically, Tamar, she works in an office, like maybe real estate or something. And she's going into work one day. She goes into the office, and then this delicious man called Jacob stops her and is like, what are all these like figures? It's not really like, it's not the kind of like numbers that I expect. And so he stops her. They have a little bit of a moment. She then is all hot and flustered. She meets up with her friends. And I think that's a long and short of it. And I think that's where we got up to last time. She's in the club speaking to her friends about what just happened, okay, with Jacob. Okay, let me see. Let's see where we were up to. Okay, so I'll read like just the last kind of some people didn't show up to class, but they showed up for this part, just so you know, Phillip. I'll read like the last couple of sentences before, just as a recap. Oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing. Okay. So, I felt him, strong and bold, whilst he parted his lips and exhaled his chilled breath into my ear and all down the side of my neck. My head tilted back, and at that moment, I was helplessly his. I was enjoying being in the boardroom with him until I felt his iPhone vibrate between us. Jacob reached into the inside of his jacket pocket and pulled out his phone. He swiped to answer. Yes, I will sort it within the hour. He spoke in a controlled tone. He then ended the call, placed his phone back into his inner pocket, buttoned up his 2-buttoned suit jacket, and straightened his slim navy Vivienne Westwood tie. He kissed me firmly on my neck, breathed in my scent, which by now was just pure Udu arousal by Jacob, and told me that he had to leave. Before I could moan or question him, he was out in the hallway, walking like a Calvin Klein model. I stood there biting down on my lips. Suddenly, a slight smile stretched across my face. I knew he wanted me as much as I wanted him. Next chapter. Girl, is that why you sent a code red? Is anyone on fire or in jail? Are we bankrupt? No, don't code red us for this shit. It isn't a code red situation. It's a flipping code sugar, Eva exclaimed. Eva is my longest, closest and best friend. She's the realest person I know. With over 20 years of friendship, she knows everything about me. And boy, do I mean everything. We've been friends since Pigtails and Peppa Pig were cool. The original ride or die, except with her, dying was never an option. However, despite all of that, she's the only person who isn't scared to check me, even when it cuts deep. Eva is an act now, think later type of girl, especially when it comes to friends and family. When we were both 18 years old, I got into a fight with this older girl because she saw me dancing with her man at the club. Eva turned around from talking with her own guy to see this crazy girl in my face. She dragged the girl by her top all the way out of the club and made it clear that she wasn't to touch me or even talk to me again. But once the girl apologized and left, Eva pushed me against the wall and said I was being dumb and that she didn't want to ever see me talking to that guy again. Eva backed her Hennessy straight, no chaser, then started bouncing to the beat of Beyonce's Grown Woman playing in the background. You mean to tell me you finally got that man all alone and you let him go? You let him walk out of your boardroom, leaving you all hot and bothered? Eva asked, half singing and half chuckling to herself. She didn't let him go. He walked out, probably to his wife and kids. And technically, it's half his boardroom too, Sandra sighed. Trust Sandra to rain on my parade. She isn't a ride or die. She just always happens to show up for the ride, especially if it's a free ride. We met at uni and she shared a dorm for the first 2 years as we were part of the same faculty. I majored in business management with entrepreneurial studies, whereas she studied business admin and secretarial studies. A true reflection of our friendship. I take all the risk, build the empire and enjoy the moments while Sandra reads the T's and C's and worries about the dots. And it's generally bland. She is a good friend, just boring and judgy a majority of the time. Sandra, I don't know whether he's married or not, so calm down. Nothing happened, so you can wind your neck in. Though I did have my suspicions regarding his marital status, I was being truthful technically. Sandra kissed her teeth whilst giving me major side eye. That's not the point. The point is you want him and you wish more happened. I took a slow sip of my drink, trying to drown out Sandra's righteousness. Coconut Ciroc mixed with coconut juice, my absolute favourite. And just as my eyes were starting to glaze over, I heard the beat of Rihanna's song Work. I stood up and made my way out of the booth, joining Eva on the dance floor. I needed to get today's events out of my mind and enjoy my evening because my weekend was starting now. I would figure out Jacob on Monday. But as for right here and right now, I was about to get lit. And then that's it for that little segment of my story. Don't clap for me. That's so bad. Oh my gosh. That's so embarrassing. I couldn't even read it because you're watching me.
Oh my goodness. You the one told me not to turn my camera
No,
off.
no,
I
no, no,
enjoyed
no.
it.
I needed you, but I also needed you to not be here. But I'm glad that you were. Um, I'm not going to put you on the spot and ask for your feedback. I will do that privately. But maybe next
Finish
week.
it first before you ask for feedback.
I don't know if this is ever going to get finished, to be perfectly honest with you. This is something I started a very long time ago. But maybe next week we will tune in to see what happens next with Tama and her friends. I wanted to ask you before we go,
Wait, how much of that do you have written?
how much of it? I quite a bit, but the idea is that it develops. So when I first started writing it, I was very, very young. This is very like, I can't even remember what that app is called, where people just used to upload little bits of their stories and stuff. This was for that, but it's going to develop. Somebody actually DM'd me of where they want the story to go, so I'm going to include it. It's gonna keep growing and growing each week as we go. So it's gonna get juicy, guys. I wanted to
Uh-oh.
ask you before I let you go. I wanted to ask you because we're building also as well as our library. Oh, I think somebody W's for Temi and W's for Phillip. Yes, I will be. Are you going to donate maybe one of your new poetry collection or your previous poetry collection to our new Black library?
I didn't know I had to do that. So
I
yeah.
Oh
But
yeah,
are you
Wattpad.
willing
That's
to
it.
wait until after July?
Oh yeah, yeah. You can send it anytime. It will just keep. It will just be added to our library. But also, what I
So
wanted
look to.
as well is because last week we had a guest, Miss BB. She is the founder of Cassava Republic Press, sorry, a publishing company. And we were talking about books that deserve to be in the canon. So I wanted you to let me know your 3 books that you would put into this canon. These are like recommended reads or must reads.
That are not currently in any kind of
They could be in any type
canon.
of canon, but this is our canon. This is the new Black canon that we're building. So what would you recommend?
The Black Book, which is a collection of different articles, essays, clippings of Black American history. I think up to how recent does it go? Maybe the 30s or 40s. Toni Morrison edited in like 1975.
Yeah.
Um, I want to say, um, where is that book? And I knew you were going to ask this because you told me you were going to ask this. Um, what is it called? Guji wa. And I always forget the name of it because I end up flipping some of the words in the title, and so I always have to look it up.
Yeah.
Um, but there's a book. It's a pretty thick book called Wizard of the Crow by Guji Watongo, which is gorgeous. Very, I think it actually fits into a lot of what we're experiencing now with corrupt political leadership,
Mm.
like, and a way that some of the smallest people, the most powerless people, are actually the most powerful, and they can fight against this corruption. Um,
Who
and
is it by?
then
Sorry, because I am.
uh,
Do you know how to spell it?
uh, Guji Watongo.
G.
How do you spell it?
Yes, please.
Oh, Ngugi
NG. Say it again. NG.
UGI
UGI.
YWA
Yeah.
THIOG THIONGO. And
Okay.
there's a I think there's an accent after the N. But if you type that in, you'll
Yeah, I'll
find
find
it.
it. And your third book?
Third book. I don't know. I think it should be something that's not obvious. Oh, maybe a book of poetry.
Yes.
Um, maybe a book of poetry. Oh, you know what? There's a new writer who this might make people be like, "What? This he's too young." But his name is Benga Adesina.
Oh, yeah.
Um, Death Does Not End at the Sea. It's a gorgeous debut collection of poetry.
Death does not
End
end
at the Sea.
at the sea. Okay, so we've got the Black Book, Wizard of the Crow, and Death Does Not End at the Sea. These are the three
Hmm.
books that you are locking into our canon of
Yes.
must-read books here at The New
Yes.
Black. So I love that. Thank you so much, Phillip, for joining us today. Thank you for sacrificing your nap time to be here with us today. I
Thank you
feel
for having
like,
me.
thank you for coming. I'm definitely going to have you back again. Hopefully, that would be maybe to talk about your new poetry collection. Please say the name of your poetry collection again.
Lift every voice.
Lift Every Voice. Coming out on July 14th.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today and for your comments, for your claps, for indulging my storytelling. Next week or whenever, when it's just us, me and you guys, we'll talk about your experience of listening to the professional Phillip read his story and then me reading my story. Maybe I'm going to do poetry. Like, maybe I'll read one of my poems next time.
Ooh.
That might be slightly better. I don't know. We'll see.
You have to give yourself way more credit than that, Temi.
I don't know. I don't know. Do you know what? Positive. New hair, new me. I'm gonna have positive vibes on my creativity from next time. All right. Thank you, guys. Phillip, I appreciate you so
Mhm.
much. Good
Likewise.
afternoon or good night because it's late here, but good night to you, and I'll speak to you later. And
Yes.
good night, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Next week, hopefully, I will be here at 7 p.m. at the earlier time of 7 p.m. We were accommodating our international author today, and on his what do you call it? time. I
Mhm.
want to say time scale, but that's not the right word. What's the word?
Oh, time zone. Time
Time
zone.
zone. Yes, that's it. But yes, we'll see you again next week at 7 p.m. on Wednesday. Bye, guys.